Cyberpunk 2077's legacy will always be hurt with how it launched, the same way many can and will never forget how Sean Murray and Hello Games marketed and released No Man's Sky. Both games have experienced comebacks, but many will not forget those very ugly beginnings. With CDPR, they were developing the most highly anticipated game of all time, the follow-up to the fantastic Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and its game-sized expansions, the game that really put CDPR on the map and at the top of the industry. Along with their many pro-consumer statements and promises, they seemingly were leading by example, and there was so much excitement to see them tackling the dark future with a larger-than-life RPG experience. And all that hype and anticipation, years of it, fell flat at launch, particularly because of Cyberpunk's unacceptable state. It was buggy, broken, full of missing features, an open world that lacked interactivity, barely functional AI, and execs had blatantly lied about certain aspects of it, such as the game running surprisingly well on current-gen consoles. They tried hiding this issue at launch by not giving out console codes, and it backfired big time. Around 2022, I had even reported on this channel that I spoke with a very senior developer that said they remembered executives sitting down and playing the game on console. They saw the issues, devs warned them, and they ignored it. Now, in the months to follow Cyberpunk 2077's launch disaster, we saw a couple of major exposés, the first of which came from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, titled Inside the Game's Disastrous Rollout. And some of the notable revelations was that the E3 2018 demo was almost entirely fake, developing the engine behind the game slowed production, execs to devs will figure it out along the way, several top Witcher 3 devs left due to clashing over the vision with Adam Badowski, this happened mid-development, devs shared memes, made bets on the inevitable delays, and the size of the game was scaled back and features cancelled. We also learned that CDPR was understaffed for the project of this scope, sudden growth led to teams being unorganized, execs dismissed engineers' concerns over launching the game on last-gen console hardware, and the studio ultimately knew the game was in rough shape weeks before launch, and the biggest thing that plagued the game's development was the company focusing on marketing at the expense of development. We also saw another major expose coming from Polish outlet Spider's Web, in which they revealed that outsourcing companies described the early 2020 build as one of the worst they ever got, and Spider's Web from their own CDPR source reiterated that building the game and engine at the same time plagued development as designers had to wait on the engine to test features and ideas. Cyberpunk 2077 was in development for a very long time, and with these revelations coming to light, the behind-the-scenes chaos, it really came as no surprise that much of the studio that developed The Witcher 3 was long gone. In my investigation that I did in 2022, I found that of the 320 CDPR devs in The Witcher 3 credits, almost 2/3 of the studio was gone. And these were by no means small names. John Mamaeus, the Krakow studio head, left the company in March of 2021. Konrad Tomaskiewicz was the game director of The Witcher 3. He left in May of 2021. And then it goes on and on. The list of major departures is extensive. Now, say what you will about this past and all of the talent that CDPR has lost, but Phantom Liberty defied expectations. They truly delivered, along with the 2.0 update, which revamped almost the entire game. On OpenCritic, the game received widespread acclaim from critics, and even to this day on Steam, the user review scores for Cyberpunk 2077 have become fantastic. Almost 700,000 reviews, 84% of them are positive, and the Phantom Liberty page alone also has pretty much a similar score of 89% based on 15,000 reviews, and Cyberpunk is still played by a lot of players to this day. But now all attention is on the future of the company, which at the moment is The Witcher 4, Project Polaris, and just recently it entered full production, or it's about to, and it's probably still a couple of years away, but there's a lot of question marks about the direction that CDPR is taking the franchise. We did see some developers acknowledging the fact that they're never going to change some people's minds. A sequel director said that CDPR may never win some fans back, but hopes future games like The Witcher 4 will. That's unfortunately the price we have to pay, and that is very, very true. But one thing about The Witcher 4, which was recently controversial, was Doug Cockle, who is the voice actor for Geralt of Rivia. He spoke about, again, that The Witcher 4 won't be focusing on Geralt. It isn't about him, but he will be in it. The problem is that a lot of people took this as CDPR, this is them giving in to an agenda, but this has been known for years. And if you actually played The Witcher 3, specifically actually its Blood and Wine expansion, there was a major scene which was a goodbye to the character of Geralt of Rivia for a while, right towards the end of the expansion. But at the time, it is worth mentioning, in 2015, they told us that this was Geralt's final adventure for the time being. And this was a senior writer at CDPR, Jacob Schmalik. He told IGN, "We felt that we owed Geralt a proper goodbye and decided to part ways with a boom. That was Blood and Wine. That was that all those years ago." But obviously it has been 9 years, and many individuals did not realize this, I suppose. Now this leads us to allegations that were recently made by Endymion on YouTube. He's a YouTuber, talks about a lot of gaming subjects, and as he said in the below tweet, I talked to a Ubisoft insider about the current state of the industry, as well as another source which tells me places like CD Projekt Red and even Funcom, which is making Dune Awakening, are in dire trouble. And we saw a CD Projekt Red CEO, the joint CEO, speaking out against this tweet or his actual video, which we're going to talk about some of the major claims that he made in a second. Mikhail Novakowski, he said in a tweet, "Seems we live in times where anyone can report complete nonsense and make a story out of it. CDPR talent leaving, we have the lowest rotation of people in recent years." Keyword recent years. DEI-driven recruitment, we hire based on merit and talent alone, just as we make games driven by artistic vision alone. Why did we choose Unreal Engine? Because it enables us to work on our games more efficiently, and we remain cutting-edge tech-wise. The Witcher 3's director left? Well, yeah, more than 2 years ago. Now can we stop looking for conspiracy theories and go back to making cool stuff? And my god, did this lead to tons of outrage. And we actually even saw more CD Projekt Red developers chiming in, agreeing with the sentiment by the CEO of the company. We saw Sebastian Kalemba, he is a VP at the company, saying, "I completely agree. At CDPR, our commitment to quality and artistic vision is evident in everything we do. Ultimately, it's our passion for creating extraordinary experiences and compelling characters that drives us. We're not here to make games for the sake of making games. We're here to create emotional experiences that resonate with gamers." The creative director on Cyberpunk 2077 saying, "Mikhail is right. While the outrage grifter is a liar. Our only goal, also everyday reality, is to make the best shit with the most talented people, and the only agenda is to make you cry when the credits roll, and a few times prior to that too." And to be fair, they did achieve that with Cyberpunk 2077. The way they went about characters in that game is honestly, I don't think any other developer has touched them. Their writing is tremendous, and I do think people need to realize that Phantom Liberty, even post all of these, talent leaving, it still was a fantastic experience, one of my favorite in years. Now, this creative director at CDPR did elaborate further in some comments, one individual asking what DEI culture means at CDPR. He said, "For me, diversity within a team is a necessary component for creating authentic open worlds, rich, nuanced, detailed, unexpected. You need that variety of perspectives." Later, they asked, "You mentioned from your personal experience you need diversity." He said, "Others can build teams and create whatever they like. Obviously, I'm talking about my teams and my approach to create a world like Cyberpunk's dark future of the USA, a country of immigrants, world melting pot. One needs artists and designers from all walks of life." And then they said, "Could you give an example of someone you consider diverse, adding a diverse suggestion that aided in the success of the game?" And he talks about Judy and her storyline. But obviously, I think she was referring to actual developers, and he says he's not going to do that. He's not going to call out specific people. But I will say this, obviously, the bugs and all that aside, the story of the characters was fantastically well done. The romance of Judy, Pan Am, just the best in the industry, in my opinion. So if this developer is indeed saying how they went about Cyberpunk in that regard is only going to continue, then that's great. That's music to my ears, but only time will tell. We'll have to wait until we actually see Witcher 4 and see if they meet that goal. And that skepticism, that concern that I know some of you have already probably typed in the comments below, that will follow CD Projekt Red forever. You cannot change the past, and this is their responsibility to prove gamers wrong. Like Phantom Liberty, the awards it received and everything, great comeback story. But that does not change the launch disaster and all of the lies that CD Projekt Red executives fed for years. So yeah, Witcher 4 is gonna be under a microscope, and that really goes for all subsequent releases, Cyberpunk 2 included. But specifically with The Witcher 4, and with this now being the direct follow-up to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and the ending of Geralt of Rivia and those fantastic expansions, it is their responsibility to exceed expectations. If they don't, oh boy, they are gonna hear it. One of the lead designers at CD Projekt Red also saying, I 200% agree with Mikhail. Retention in the 2 years that I've been here, maybe 2 people from my team left compared to what I was used to at other companies with 1 to 3 people a month. Engine, we work better with each other this way. Don't give made up drama views and go make games. An associate game director at CD Projekt Red, he was also one of the lead developers on the base game of Cyberpunk 2077, saying, thank you, Mikhail. Games of Phantom Liberty quality are possible in teams where people are taken care of. Talent is retained, hired only because of competency, and there is no BS agenda of any kind. Only thing I want is to make a remarkable art that moves you deeply. And beyond these lengthy response coming from some of the notable CD Projekt Red developers, we saw a bunch more retweeting and also boosting up the initial comment coming from the CEO. So in total, we had over 20 CD Projekt Red developers endorsing these comments coming from the CEO of the company, pushing it back against these remarks coming from this YouTuber. Now, specifically what Endymion said, these are the allegations that he made, which got this response from a CD Projekt Red executive. He specifically alleged that CD Projekt Red is in an absolute chaos right now based on who actually is still working there that used to work on the previous game. Apparently, lots of senior talent has already left CD Projekt Red. For example, the director of The Witcher 3 has long left the studio, and they've already created their own studio with their own new game as well. Apparently, places like Warhorse Studios, the makers of Kingdom Come Deliverance, they have actually been poaching talent from CD Projekt Red like crazy these past years. Now, it is worth mentioning that Konrad Tomaskiewicz, the game director of The Witcher 3, he left due to allegations that he was hit with back in 2021. Those were major allegations saying that he was bullying staff during the game's development, and after an investigation was made against him, I don't think anything was found, but he said he needed time off, and he left CDPR after like 17 years being with the company. So it is worth mentioning that it wasn't like he just left for the door. It was because of things that were said behind the scenes, an investigation that eventually came to light. And this is what CDPR, these are the credits from The Witcher 3. I think it is worth mentioning that almost all of the top names in the Witcher 3 credits are gone. A majority of them are gone. Now compare that to the Phantom Liberty credits and it's a much different story. They have been able to retain a lot more staff in recent years, that is true. So I do think that we are now a couple of years past this mass exodus, and this is a new CD Projekt Red, and we got to experience that with the Phantom Liberty, and that quality still was there. Now with The Witcher 4, we'll see what happens. I think my major concerns are more so with the Cyberpunk 2 Project Orion, because it's a CD Projekt Red production that is not being developed by the Polish studio, but an American studio that was recently formed, and it has a ton of staff that we don't know what to expect out of them. But it is true that a lot of the talent that was responsible for The Witcher 3 and its fantastic expansions have formed new studios. Rebel Wolves is probably the biggest example of that. They actually was a new game studio from The Witcher 3 game director, Konrad Tomaskiewicz. He formed this back in 2022, and they have been creating a dark fantasy RPG in Unreal Engine 5. Again, that was announced in 2022. We also saw another studio come about, Fool's Theory. That was also in 2022, and they are now being the studio behind the Witcher remake. So a bunch of former CD Projekt Red developers formed a different studio, and they're still working with CDPR. And then more recently, we had another studio that was formed in 2023 by CD Projekt Red veterans. This studio is called Blank. Unsure what exactly they're working on. There's at least 3 studios formed by CD Projekt Red veterans, pretty much. But back to the article that covers these allegations made by Endymion. He continued saying that, I was told that the problems that are plaguing Ubisoft, like diversity hires, are also starting to damage and ruin CD Projekt Red as well. According to that other source, CD Projekt has begun to rely heavily on outsourcing to contractors to help with their games because the new talent they have is nowhere near where they need them to be right now. And specifically, it is worth mentioning what he's talking about, the diversity and all this. It all goes back to, well, this video specifically. And it started with CDPR having a commitment to ESG. And this video was, as you can see, mass downvoted at the time, 11,000 dislikes to 300. And a lot of people have been accusing CDPR for a while, saying that they have an agenda now with their games. But I will show off part of this video so you get an understanding of what they mean by their diversity and inclusivity commitment, because I think it is a little different than what, some people think. And these remarks are made by another CDPR executive, for what it's worth.
Represent a diverse set of mindsets, social groups, and backgrounds. In The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, we tackled the issue of domestic violence, strained family relationships, and discrimination. Cyberpunk 2077, on the other hand, addresses alienation and dehumanization of society. Our products reach millions of people around the world, so we want to focus on what's important and encourage gamers to reflect upon the choices that surround them. The second important aspect relates to our team. We strive to ensure that we are a company people love working at. We give our team members the opportunity to engage in ambitious projects and pursue unique career development paths.
And the thing is, the allegation that people have made because of this commitment, people believe that CDPR is hiring based on diversity and not based on merit. They are trying to fill quotas that probably will satisfy investors or certain groups to give them points and such. And many have also pointed out that CDPR has a diversity and inclusion page, which goes over a lot. And so it says their mission for this is, our purpose is to create revolutionary role-playing games with memorable stories that inspire gamers. It is worth mentioning, so far there is nothing specifically about hiring, at least yet. We can only deliver on these goals and promises with an amazing, passionate team whose talent and professional skills reflect the breadth of experience in the world. And I think that's part is what people believe that means, that they're hiring not based on talent and merit. A diverse and inclusive work environment boosts creativity and innovation, which is exactly what we need in order to push the limits of technology and storytelling. And then Adam Kaczynski, the CEO, I believe he's no longer at the time, but he said, our mission is to create revolutionary games for players around the world, and this is why we need to empower the potential of our teams. The diversity of perspectives unlocks creativity and increases innovation. I think the argument that CDPR is trying to make is that a diversity of perspectives doesn't mean that they're not trying to find the best talent on earth. Many individuals believe that's just not true when you have something like this in a page like this. Now, it does continue, we're achieving it by encouraging diverse teams, and this is, again, this goes back to the allegations that CDPR has been hit with. Our identity is the core of who we are, and it's what we share with others while working together. And I do think that when you look at some of the woke games like Baldur's Gate 3 and such, I don't think that just necessarily means the product's automatically going to be terrible. And so far, CDPR has not given any indication that the quality is going to be dropping. And many of the lead writers and individuals that were a part of Cyberpunk 2077's base game and Phantom Liberty, they are still very much around and in control of the writing. So even if they have a diverse team, I don't think many people are, going to have issues with that. Although I think this is right now a revolt against the industry because it's become so prevalent, the progressiveness of this industry, and many are fighting back against that. But back to this page, it also mentions they want inclusive leaders. They create healthy teams and relationships based on trust and understanding. Our diversity fuels us to create an inclusive environment where authentic leaders have the skills to listen to every person, overcoming unconscious biases and decision-making processes. Inclusion fosters the growth and resilience of our teams, who feel empowered by leaders to take risks and boldly present different points of view. And they want equitable processes. Creating a space where everyone feels safe and respected is what we stand for. Equitable practices, we're not afraid to stand for what we believe in. By implementing inclusive benefits and creating a space where everyone can be themselves, we create a positive example for other companies and help positive social change. And I think some of this is fine. I do think that just the fact that they're calling this, diversity and inclusion, it's going to make a lot of people upset because of what we've seen at other companies. And they do have a diversity and inclusion director, which, again, a position that has been met with a lot of controversy at other companies. We believe that talented and passionate people are our biggest strength, and creating a safe and inclusive workplace helps us create more room for them in the industry at our company. And with all the controversy CDPR faced with its workplace culture before launch, I guess I'm not too surprised by this page, and only exists in recent years. And I think that is because of games media coming after CDPR. And obviously I don't think CDPR expected this reality, but the reason why we're getting this response from the CEO, I think they are nervous about what they've seen with Ubisoft and how that company is tanked down the toilet because of this anti-woke movement and people associating Ubisoft with that. And there's something that they do not want their next games to be associated with, but unfortunately, I think it's going to happen no matter what. They also say healthy teams are the ones where all team members feel good, valued, and safe, and these are our teams we want to empower inside Red by introducing various initiatives. They talk about diversity in games. At CDPR, we are committed to creating rich and immersive virtual worlds that provide gamers with high-quality entertainment, which is why we strive to create realities that are credible and internally consistent, which I'm not really sure how that has an association with diversity in games. Maybe the type of storyline? I'm not really sure where they're going with that. They also talk about girls in the game. We created created a mentoring and scholarship program for high school girls to help them take their first steps in the video game industry. And this is another thing that was met with tons of controversy, with some individuals using this as an example that CDPR is excluding men from hiring. And we did see a CD Projekt Red business developer respond to these allegations. Wow, the amount of times that the grifters that claim to love freedom and capitalism bring up the Women's Scholarship Program as proof is just unbelievable. Okay, let's assume you really are concerned about merit. You are not, as there are more or less the same amount of women and men on Earth. Would it make sense to encourage half the population to consider gaming as a job, as we already all are employing all capable men? So his allegation is that they have as many capable men on staff already, and I guess they're having trouble finding any more talent, and they need, I guess, to reach out to women. I guess that's his argument. Games are getting more complex and need more and more people to make them. In Poland in particular, no good dev stays unemployed for long. So for the long-term health of the industry you claim to love, you better pray more women will consider pursuing a career in our industry. We should take any and all opportunities to encourage them to make games. And it is worth mentioning, I think CDPR did burn some bridges with The Witcher 3, so a lot of talent have gone to other Polish studios, so they truly might be at risk of not having enough talent, enough Polish voices, so maybe that is the reasoning. But he did continue further. He saw somebody actually specifically call him out. The individual said, wow, the amount of times that the hypocrites that claim to hate this and that type of discrimination defend the women's scholarship is just unbelievable. If only incompetent men are left as you claim, why do you need to ban them from the scholarship? So this directly is a response coming from this business developer at CDPR. He says, because the program was made to get more women, as we have all the men already, and I'm not exaggerating at all, there were open vacancies for more than a year that could not be filled. All specialists were already taken, so if you cannot get more men, now a hint for you, maybe we should try the other half of the human population to care enough to consider our industry. And then this individual did respond again saying, and that's why you need to close the program to men. And this developer responded again saying, maybe the third time will be the charm. There are no men left. All that wanted to get in are already working. We need to nudge them because there are not enough men to make games. I'm not talking about social justice. This is pure pragmatism. If we want games in the future, we need women to make them. But other than this scholarship program, there is some other stuff. They have a menstrual leave program, and they also, I guess, took part in a campaign. CDPR was part of the Say Hi to Diversity campaign, which gives space and voice to people who play diverse roles in their daily lives. Don't know what that is, make of that as you will. And then they also are part of the Diversity Charter, where among the companies that signed this charter, a document committing to non-discrimination in the workplace, as well as the introduction of policies that create and promote diversity. We're also listed as one of the top employers in Poland in terms of managing diversity and inclusion. And CDPR did get awarded a DEI award, which a lot of people have been using against the company, and it is worth mentioning that apparently their menstrual leave is specifically why they got this award, I believe. I think that's what it mentions, and it allows a menstruating employee experiencing painful that to take one extra day off per month, and I guess that's what they got this award for, I believe. Now, as this article mentions, here another allegations that Endymion made was, I was told the reason why the next Witcher is using Unreal Engine instead of the Red Engine that previous games did is largely because most of the senior talent that worked and understood the Red Engine are not at CD Projekt Red anymore, and Unreal is more of a one-size-fits-all engine that many devs are familiar with these days, and that's actually kind of true. I heard this myself, and I reported it back in 2022, and I have the video of the example I can show you. This is what I reported a couple of years ago, and this is what I heard at the time. The announcement may have been a surprise to the public, but within CDPR this was an expected move, a move that some claim was being pushed for quite some time, thus why many veteran programmers have been leaving and plan to leave the company. The belief or overall consensus the public have is that switching to an established engine like Unreal Engine should do great wonders for CDPR, who struggled to build the necessary infrastructure for their bold vision with Cyberpunk. Still though, some CDPR staff are skeptical that Unreal Engine 5 will solve all of their problems. It's viewed that Red Engine, while it had its issues, was something that had made great strides before and after Cyberpunk's launch. A lot of the blame I've heard is on the lack of skilled engineers and technical leadership within CDPR. Regardless, Unreal Engine 5 is the future for CDPR games. There are certainly questions and concerns over the move, especially in regard to the engine's open world capabilities and the fact that no AAA game has released yet featuring this engine. And this perspective was only enhanced further once Daniel Vavra, the director of Warhorse Studios, he talked about the CDPR issues that they were having with Unreal Engine 5. And again, this aligns with exactly what I reported at the time. I haven't talked to any of my sources at the company in a couple of years now. Maybe I'll have to reach out after this, but this is what Vavra said. And he's another, I believe Warhorse Studios is a Polish studio as well.
Prostě CD Projekt jako...
And yeah, as you can see, Vavra does not speak English in this clip, so I'll read what he says specifically here so you get an idea of what he's saying. He says, now CDPR, they switched to Unreal, even though in my opinion they had a good proprietary engine. Red Engine was fantastic. Well, and I've heard rumors that now they're quite like, well, I talked to someone whose name I obviously can't say, and I said to him, so what about Unreal? Great, we already have pieces done like some landscapes. And I said, well, what about the open world? Not yet. When did they announce it? A year or two ago, and still it doesn't work as good as on their old engine. And these comments made by Vavra just a number of months ago, and what I had reported and heard was a couple of years before then. So I guess Vavra has continued to hear that CDPR is hurting with their Unreal Engine, although obviously CD Projekt Red CEO is disputing these claims now. But I've said this a couple of times over the years, and it's really not that massive revelation, but the reason why they switched to Unreal Engine was because they just didn't have the talent needed to continue the Red Engine. They would have to train individuals for that, and Unreal Engine, you can bring in talent all across the industry that have expertise with it. It's used widely, and you don't necessarily have to, train these individuals for that. So for recruiting new individuals, making things work faster, that's why they went to Unreal Engine, and it makes sense. But at the same time, Red Engine did a lot of things a lot better in my opinion, and Unreal Engine at this point I think is unproven, especially Unreal Engine 5 with open world games. Now, to say the responses to these tweets, the one from the CDPR CEO and this YouTuber, have been controversial and crazy is an understatement. It is a total war zone on social media, many CDPR developers, industry veterans coming to CDPR's defense, and a lot of those that are against wokeness and all of that stuff going after CD Projekt Red and shaming them for, well, their diversity page and a lot of the stuff that I mentioned earlier on in this video, bringing up stuff like that. But we did see Danny O'Dwyer, a notable gaming critic, saying the worst trend with these ambulance chasing freaks is them cosplaying as journalists. Getting two people to talk off the record is about as difficult as wiping your arse. And his response to all of the top talent leaving CDPR the last number of years was saying, I interviewed 60 plus CDPR developers on the record and was embedded in the studio for a few months in 2020, pointing at a list of people who changed jobs after reaching senior positions as proof that there's water talent exodus is naive at best and intentionally misleading at worst, which is just it's a stupid take. I mean, 2/3 of the studio left that were responsible for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. There was a story there. Many other journalists even talked about the mass exodus. I don't know why O'Dwyer has this perspective with this, but like I said, it is a war zone right now on social media surrounding CD Projekt Red, which reminds me back to a time in which this company was a war zone from games media. They would constantly go after them. We had Polygon with this great think piece all those years ago, talking about The Witcher 3 and saying it was racist for, I guess, its Polish identity. One of the earliest, biggest controversies that hit the game was a joke sent out on Twitter, which many did not take as a joke, and games media absolutely ripped CDPR for years. We had Rock Paper Shotgun playing a demo of the game, saying that the game had unimaginative stereotypes. We also had a games journalist that went after the Cyberpunk creator Mike Pondsmith, a black man, calling him racist for his portrayal of black characters in his own game, 2077. Pondsmith rightfully blasted the journalist. We also had, even recently, think pieces coming from The Gamer, which pretty much argues that why are there cops in Cyberpunk 2077? CDPR doesn't understand the genre, blah, 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 blah. A CD Projekt Red developer actually responded to this article, trashing The Gamer for it. We obviously saw Anita Sarkeesian years ago took an out-of-context moment in the game and said that it is potentially sexist representations, so they need to hire her for consultancy on the game, which that was just insane and hilarious when that happened. There was also the fact that they had some trans imagery in the game, like a character that had a bulge and an advertisement in the background. Games media went berserk about that one. CDPR had to be coming to the defense on that one. They also said the game wasn't going to have political statements, and CDPR again was trashed for that one. A revelation that happened before the game launched from VG247 calling out the fact that CDPR didn't, I guess, have a balanced staff of... They pretty much said that CDPR having only 26% of staff being women and 21% being foreigners is a major red flag, I guess. I don't know why that is. So I guess you can maybe kind of understand why CD CDPR may have a page like that up, and it's because of all of this rhetoric, all this stuff. And I believe that diversity page first started about 2018, 2019, 2020, so when all of this noise really hit them from games media, and here they are again getting hit from a different angle, I suppose. Then there was also the outrage over the crunch culture that was a major factor with all the departures that happened after The Witcher 3, and fortunately though, that crunch culture is no more. The working culture at the studio has never been better, and I think The Witcher 4 director even said that they would not be having any crunch at all, but we'll see what happens with that. And say what you will, but I don't really have too much concerns with the Polish studio. With their new American studio, that's a little bit of a different story, and we did hear some new information over the summer about it. It was the fact that the Cyberpunk 2 will be more authentically American. This was a funny one because executive producer Dan Herdberg said it was appropriate to have the sequel be developed in North America. I think Cyberpunk is obviously a uniquely American story. It's got a lot of punk energy, and it was written by an American, so it just seems right to do it in America. I don't understand this perspective. I don't think you have to be American to make a authentic American game. I mean, you see Rockstar Games, what they've done with Grand Theft Auto. The satirization is perfect to the American culture, so I just find this perspective silly. But they also talked about wanting to do more social commentary. They talked about the homeless crisis and also manholes. So that's their official reasoning they're giving for why they opened an American studio. But let's be fair, they just don't want to follow the Bethesda route in which they have a franchise like Cyberpunk being dormant for a decade plus. They don't want to be like Fallout and the Elder Scrolls, and I don't blame them. I wish that's what they had just said here. But there was also controversy over a hiring in which a Sweet Baby Incorporated Defender, controversial consultancy firm, also an employee that was working at Insomniac Games on Wolverine, they left and joined CDPR, and this individual has had some head-scratching remarks, and they joined as a writer at that Project Orion studio, which is working on the next Cyberpunk game, not at the Polish studio, worth mentioning that point. We actually saw another lead developer at CD Projekt Red defending this hiring, saying that Mary is one of the best of the best. So to describe 2024 in gaming, it has been true madness. This culture war divisiveness has only worsened and really exploded this year. We now have developers on different sides of the coin fighting back against narratives that they disagree with. We had a Concord dev calling haters talentless freaks, and just a video or two ago we talked about a Ubisoft monetization director, I can't believe that position exists in this industry, says a lot really, that somehow didn't understand the hate for Ubisoft, and there's many different reasons why, really. Myself though, I just want good games, and so far CDPR has delivered that in terms of characters and story, and most of the individuals responsible for that are still there, and showed that talent off with Phantom Liberty, which makes me optimistic for The Witcher 4. But one thing is clear from this situation: these accusations, the outrage are only going to continue, and really the only way that you fight back against this stuff is by creating a fantastic product, something they hopefully will do with the next Witcher installment, because I really am eager to get back into that universe with another quality media experience. Anyway, what do you make of this current situation and CDPR fighting back against these accusations? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video, or if you found any informative value. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.